or newsletter sign-ups. Your client might also provide you with a limit on how much each result can cost. In other cases, you might determine the campaign budget yourself, or you might be asked to recommend the campaign budget to a client. So, how much should you spend then? Your campaign budget will ultimately depend on what results you or your company are aiming to achieve and your realistic estimate of how well your ads will drive sales or conversions. We'll talk about how to determine each of those things in this video. Let's use an example company to walk through how we determine a campaign budget. We'll start with an online bike parts retailer who's aiming to achieve a result of $50,000 in revenue per month. Let's say you are an analyst at this company. You know that for every 100 people that land on the website, one person becomes a buyer and buys two $100 bike tires. This means every buyer generates $200 in revenue. The company wants to make $50,000 in revenue per month. That means you'll need 250 buyers. To now determine the total number of website visitors you'll need over the course of the month, multiply the 250 buyers with the number of visitors needed to get a buyer. 250 buyers times 100 is 25,000. So your ads will need to get you 25,000 website visitors per month to achieve your revenue goal. So how much can you spend on advertising to get those 25,000 website visitors? To calculate that, we need to compare our revenue and our actual profits. Let's say the set of two bike tires that the company is selling costs $80 to make and $20 to sell. This means that although the revenue is $200, the profit is $100 because you're only making $100 per sale in profit. This means that you don't want to spend more than $100 on advertising per sale, or you'll spend more than the profit the company makes per sale and thus lose money. So if the company makes $50,000 in revenue, they're going to make $25,000 in profit. This means you shouldn't spend more than $25,000 on your advertising. Every dollar you spend less than those $25,000 is now your actual profit after reflecting your advertising cost. So it's good to remember to never spend more on advertising than the profit you make. Here's another general guideline that's good to know: the rule of thirds. Many businesses use this rule of thumb to decide on how much to spend on ads to keep their businesses growing. This rule says to spend no more than 1/3 of your expected revenue on advertising. With that in mind, if you want to see $50,000 in revenue, you shouldn't spend more than 1/3 of that, or $16,600 on advertising. Now we need to calculate how much we can pay per website visitor. You're going to need 25,000 website visitors to make $50,000 in revenue. You also know you don't want to spend more than about $16,600 on advertising. You may not plan on spending all your advertising dollars on one platform, though. But is spending $16,600 enough to get us 25,000 website visitors? To figure that out, we need to test our ad campaign. So, how do you test your ad campaign? Before you put in your full budget on day one, we recommend starting with a smaller test budget and monitoring your campaign very closely. Get an idea of how much impressions or clicks cost and how well they convert into results. With that data in hand, you can then calculate how much you can spend to reach your objectives. In the next video, we will have a look at how to set your campaign budget in Facebook Ads Manager. Now that we know how to determine a campaign budget, let's talk about how we set that budget in Ads Manager. First, it's important to remember that the budget you set in Ads Manager is not necessarily the amount you'll spend. For example, you don't buy an ad campaign for $100. You instead indicate to Facebook how much you want to spend on an ad campaign over a given time period. So if you set a maximum budget of $100 to be spent over a month, but Facebook only spends $70 in advertising that month based on the campaign's performance, your bill will be $70. When you first set up a campaign in Ads Manager, you have the option to either set a campaign budget or set individual